NFL team previews, 2025 season. We're talking the Green Bay Packers. The Packers have now gone over their win total in 6 straight seasons, including last year's 11-win season. Ultimately, the Packers ended up being one of the many stepping stones for the Eagles on their way to becoming Super Bowl champs. Packers lost to Philly in the wild card round of the playoffs 22-10. It was only their second loss of more than 5 points all season. Jordan Love may have not played up to his season expectations. He did win 11 games while he dealt with several different injuries. Sprained MCL in the season opener. Once that started to heal, it was his groin injury. And not to make excuses for Love, but his numbers do look a lot more impressive when you consider Green Bay faced the toughest overall schedule of pass defenses last year. Of the top 10 rated pass defenses in EPA per pass play allowed, Green Bay faced 9 of those top 10 teams. In a weird way, I think the things that made the Packers season a challenge last year helps them this year. After Love missed weeks 2 and 3 with injury, the Packers had to kind of abandon their offensive game plan and go to more like a run heavy style. This not only stunted the growth of the young wide receiving core, but it limited the potential of this offense. Only 2 teams had fewer pass attempts than Green Bay last season, the Eagles and Ravens. In an NFC Norris division that's loaded with really good offenses, I think the Packers are going to be the most balanced offense. Running the ball this season will be an option rather than being something they had to do last year. And I don't want to make it seem like the Packers overcame some crazy hardships last season to only come back better and stronger, but because Packers did have some good breaks last year, especially when getting several home games in advantageous weather. They got the Niners with Brandon Allen at quarterback in the snow in Lambeau. They got Miami Thanksgiving night in freezing temps. Kyler Murray, Jared Goff, both in the rain at Lambeau. Not to mention the games Jordan Love missed due to injury, the Packers won with Malik Willis filling in. And outside of Jordan Love missing 2.5 games to injury, the team was generally healthy. On the defensive side, it's an above average unit led by former Boston College head coach Jeff Hafley. Wherever Hafley's been, the pass defense has been top 5. He's going to be a head coach soon, no doubt. It's no surprise the Packers' strength of their defense was their pass defense, but notice this gap here between EPA per play allowed 4th and success rate of 21. Something else was going on here for the Packers, and it was turnovers. They generated the second most turnovers in the league. Big reason for that was the opposing schedule of quarterbacks faced. Second lowest percentage of snaps against top 10 EPA rated quarterbacks. There's a stat called bad ball percentage. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's the rate at which a quarterback throws inaccurate or poorly placed passes. Of the top 7 quarterbacks with the highest bad ball percentage, the Packers played 5 of them. So the question is, Green Bay had the second most forced turnovers. Was it because of the opponents they faced, or was this the Hafley defense at work? Probably a little bit of both. Regardless, the defense was still above average and still had to make the plays, but context is important here. Based on my ratings, I have the NFC North as the best division in football. So naturally, teams that play in this division will have a tough overall strength of schedule. Green Bay will only play 3 opponents that I have ranked outside the top 20: the Browns, Giants, and Panthers. I have Green Bay playing a top 10 toughest strength of schedule overall, but it's lopsided between home and away games with the tougher games at home. I have their average opponents at home rated 2.5 points better than a league average team, while their away schedule is against an easier than average strength of opponent. But what's interesting here is what's supposed to be like the difficult part of the Packers' schedule, like the early season home games, they're starting to look a little different here in August, just 3 weeks away from week 1. And the reason I say this is because they open against Detroit, who's going to be breaking in 2 new coordinators, which is probably the best time to play them all season is week 1. Aiden Hutchinson, it's going to be his first game back from injury. Then you got Washington, who has their best skill position player, Terry McLaurin, still on holdout. And let's say they iron out his contract the day after me saying this. He's still going to be behind. We see this all the time with every player who holds out and signs later in the offseason. It takes a few games to get back to form. And the same can be said for week 4 game in Dallas with Mika still holding out. All of a sudden, the later we get in the offseason, the better the first month of the schedule is starting to look for the Packers, especially with the Browns mixed in there. And these might seem like insignificant things, but they absolutely matter when you have a schedule with 12 games with a point spread between a field goal or less. It's the most coin flip games scheduled of any team. Packers basically return their staff and personnel all intact, while other teams in the division undergo significant personnel and coaching changes. They did lose Jair Alexander, which is a blow to their secondary, but from like an organizational standpoint, it's probably a positive. The guy's had a huge contract, and he's hardly ever on the field. Alexander's talented, no question, but he's only played 34 games the last 4 seasons. But they do lose him in a position that's extremely vulnerable right now. Hobbs, Nixon, and Bullard, not a good secondary there. In the draft, Packers used their first 3 picks on offense, 2 of them with wideouts. First rounder, Matthew Golden. Guy ran a 4.29 in the 40 at the combine. He's going to join a very crowded wide receiver room that will have to be whittled down, especially if Christian Watson regains his health after blowing out his ACL. The Packers wide receiver group was expected to produce a number 1 option last season, but nobody stepped into that role. In fact, Green Bay's top 3 wide receiving targets, Wicks, Reed, and Dobbs, all ranked top 30 in catchable drop ball percentage. Wicks and Reed were top 6. But Green Bay has a lot of weapons and options. Just who's going to step into that one is any guess. But that golden draft pick, in theory, was like the perfect pick. I don't know if he'll pan out or not, but Packers needed a deep ball threat to get the safeties from creeping into the box. Last year, the passing windows were just so tight because Green Bay didn't have anyone to stretch the field or no deep ball threats to keep the safeties honest. So even just the threat of it, or like if he's a decoy, it's still going to help. You know, every team in the NFC North can win the division. I think it's going to be Green Bay, and it's not because I think they're the most talented or best team. It's timing and circumstances, which can do a lot for a team. I think with the changes the Lions will have this year will cause them to hiccup, and the Packers will dethrone the Lions and keep them from a three-peat of winning the NFC North division. And whoever wins this division is going to be battle tested, and I think will rep the NFC in the Super Bowl, and the price is more than fair for them to do it. I'm going to stop here. Next up, we're going Houston Texans, so be on the lookout for that one. Until next time, good luck with your bet.